Hi boys and girls, today we are working on Unit 6, Lesson 5 for Language Arts. And today we are going to take our spelling test, our spelling assessment, and we're also going to write our personal narratives. So first you're going to take your spelling test, and at this point I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pause and go into ClassKick to complete your spelling assessment. Okay, now that you're all done, let's get back to our writing. So just to review our writing process, we plan what we're going to write about, we create a draft, we edit, we make changes, and then we finally publish our writing. So this week we have kind of mapped out or planned what we're going to be writing about. So this should look familiar, worksheet 4.2. You've already completed this by writing who you're going to write about, telling where and when it takes place, what happened during the event, and why it was important. So now that we have all of the parts of our story, now we're going to actually write our story, make these thoughts and ideas into complete sentences. Okay, so for step one, you always need to have a title for a narrative. So in ClassKick, you are going to see a sheet that looks like this, but you can also use a piece of paper and a pencil if you'd like to actually just go ahead and write your narrative out. It's up to you. But either way, whether you're using this writing sheet in ClassKick or if you're using a pencil and paper, you always have to start with writing your title. Step 2, you're going to use your planning worksheet, which is worksheet 4.2, to write complete sentences for your narrative. So here I have my planning worksheet, and here I have my paper with my title. So let me go over my planning worksheet. Yours is going to look different because it's about your story, it's what happened to you. This is what I chose to write about. You need to make sure that you have every single part of your planning worksheet complete before you start writing. So again, let's just go back for a moment. Step 1 is to create your title. Step 2 is to use your planning worksheet 4.2 to write complete sentences. So for my planning worksheet, what I'm writing about, I was writing about a time when I was with my friend Michelle. And where was I? I was in Peru at Machu Picchu, and it was early, it was about 8 o'clock in the morning. And on my planning worksheet, I wrote what happened first. And first we rode the bus from the town that we were in to Machu Picchu. Then we began hiking up the mountain. Finally, we reached the top. And after we hiked back down the mountain, we had lunch at the cafe. I wrote that this was the most exciting part of our entire trip to Peru. We were able to visit the ancient ruins of the Inca Empire. So my title is The Hike of a Lifetime. Again, this is just mine. Yours is going to be different because it's your story, something that happened to you. So now let me show you how I took each part and I changed all of this into complete sentences because these aren't complete sentences. These are just my ideas. This is just my planning. Again, starting with my title, The Hike of a Lifetime, I wrote, during my trip to Peru, I went on an amazing adventure with my best friend Michelle. One morning, we rode a bus all the way to Machu Picchu. Once we arrived, we started our hike up the steep mountain. After hours, we finally made it to the top. We could see all of the ancient ruins below us. At the top, we took pictures before we started our climb back down. When we finally reached the bottom, we were exhausted and hungry. We ate a delicious sandwich at the cafe before heading back to the bus. On the bus ride home, I turned to Michelle and said, "Wasn't that awesome?" "Yes," Michelle said. "That was a hike of a lifetime." So one more time, I just want to show you that I took all of my ideas that I wrote on my planning worksheet, who I was with, where it happened, when it happened, what happened, and why it was important. I took all of those ideas and I turned all my thoughts into complete sentences to write my story. And of course, if you'd like to pause the video and read my story again, you can. If you go through and you read a story, it should answer all 5 W questions: who, where, when, why, what, and why. So my last step is to draw a picture. Now you can do this too if you're choosing to do it on ClassKick and you're able to. You can just add a picture like I did, or you can try and draw one on your iPad. Or if you're doing it with a pencil and paper, you of course can just go ahead and color a picture. But here's my picture of Machu Picchu. That is what we saw when we were on our exciting hike. Okay, now after we write, we always need to edit and make sure that we don't have any mistakes and make sure that we have every part of our story. So after you write your story, I want you to go through this checklist and check that you described who was in the tale. Make sure you told the reader where the tale took place. Check and make sure you described when it happened. Always, probably the most important part, you have to give the events. Tell what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end. And also describe why the tale happened or why it was important. Always start your sentence with a capital letter and check that the words are spelled correctly, as well as, check that you end each sentence with a punctuation mark. One more time, so important. Remember, every sentence starts with a capital letter and ends with punctuation. Okay, so now it's time for you to get started on your own story on ClassKick or writing in your journal.